At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability, ASU isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
I earned my degree online at Arizona State University. I chose to get my degree at ASU because I knew that I'd get a quality education, they were recognized for excellence, and that I would be prepared for the workforce upon graduating. To be associated with ASU, both as a student and alum, it makes me extremely proud, and having experienced the program, I know now that I'm set up for success. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
About CE5 and extraterrestrial contact. Download my new book, now on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple, and 14 other platforms. Book authored by Donald Ledesma. CE5, Frequencies of Contact.
Alien Strand Podcast.
Where I fasted for 4 days, no drinking, no eating. So I sat beside these big pine trees, and when I passed out, I was saying to myself, how big is the universe? And that tree must have shot me like an arrow. I could see the village, I could see the lake, I could see more. And I kept taking off more and more. I could see the earth, how big it was. And it just kept going, and I could see the earth was like this, it was going like that, and it disappeared. And then I looked the other way, and I could see stars. And the further I was going, the more things I was starting to see, galaxies and stuff like that. It was kind of huge, and I got scared.
Welcome to this episode of Alien Strand Podcast. I'm your host, Don Ledesma, and welcome to today's show. Yeah! It's been a long time. Hello? It's been a while. But hey, I'm glad to be back. And I'm glad you guys are back as well. You know, I've been down for quite some time. Yeah, I know. I tried to do a podcast last week, and I actually did one. But you know, I went to this different system. I tried to be a little bit more mobile, right? So I said, well, you know what? Let me try to be a little bit mobile, and I'm going to go ahead and just try my laptop, and then Windows-based, mind you. And I went ahead and used a different kind of interface and all kinds of stuff. So you know what? I'm going to try to do this and try to get mobile because I was moving around, right? And I'm kind of switching locations and stuff, right? And, of course, now I'm working for the man, right? Uncle Sam is the man. So I'm working for him now, so it kind of takes up a lot more of my time. I am so sorry. But you know what? I am still here in the background. I've been watching in the background. I've been watching all the aliens and UFOs and the spheres and everything that's been happening in the background. Yes, I have. And of course, I've been staying stuck to Alien Strand Disclosure Project, which has been going on for quite some time. Yes, thank you for everybody for holding down the fort. Thank you, everybody that's out there that are representatives of Alien Strand Disclosure Project. They are still out there. And if you need any help, if you need to talk to anybody about an abduction or something that possibly happened to you that you don't understand, please reach out to one of them or reach out to myself on Instant Messenger if possible. I have a good friend of mine, Heather, over there in Scotland. She sent me some information. Thank you. I did see that, Heather, and I'm going to reach out to this person that really needs some help right now because of a possible extraterrestrial abduction. Yes, these things do happen. Now, this podcast, Alien Strand Podcast, we've been going on since 2019. Of course, everybody knows that. 26, 28 platforms. We go on one, we lose one. We go on, we lose one. That's why I always say 26 to 28, right? That's why. Amazon, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, it's a Castbox. We have Deezer, Podbean. We're all over the place, right? So if you look for Alien Strand Podcast, you'll find us anywhere. Just Google it. Or Google Donald Ledesma. Everybody, do that right now. Google Donald Ledesma. I guarantee you're going to see Alien Strand Podcast out there because we've been doing this since 2019. And, we've had a lot of really good supporters into ufology because that's what this is about. And if you're new to ufology, well, welcome. Welcome to Alien Strand Podcast. We're here to show you what extraterrestrials, Bigfoot, spiritualism, different kinds of things that happen out there that you don't understand. We're here to help you try to understand, right, and kind of show you the way of what's happening out there up in our skies and below our feet because we are in the middle. Yes, the middle, of course. I'm going to mention that. It's about my films. The Middle Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3 are out right now on Amazon Prime. Please go check those out. And give us a thumbs up on those if you really enjoyed them. And they're actually on, Fawsome TV for free. You can see both of them right now, Part 1 and Part 2 on Fawsome. And you can catch it on Tubi TV as well. Yes, you can. So if you give or take, you got commercials, right? But if you don't want commercials, just go ahead and go to Amazon Prime. If you got the app on your TV, Roku, whatever, go check out those films. I really appreciate it. Give some thumbs up there. Some feedback would be nice. All right. And we are working on the last section of that, which is Part 4. Yes, the last editing is underway now. And, we're trying to finish up that last film called The Middle Part 4 Redemption, because that's what it's going to be about, redemption. So, there's been a lot of things happening up in our skies. And we've been trying to figure out little by little, okay, what's going on? What's going on? What is that? What is this, right? Spheres falling from the skies up in Colombia, spheres falling down from Mexico. What are these things, right? What are these things that are flying above our skies, right? Are they drones? Yeah, I think they are, But are they occupied in some sort by a little extraterrestrial inside of there? I don't know, because they've had that one from Burga, Colombia already for quite a bit, and they had a big old conference on it yesterday. So if you go on X, right, I don't know if you guys like that, but it's a great platform for ufology. You'll see a lot of good stuff on there. You can follow us there as well on Alien Strand. But they showed a lot of the conference with Dr. Greer. A lot of people were out there talking about the Burgosphere, and there was a lot of good information on there. I even made a small let's just say a clip of it, and I put it on our TikTok on Alien Strand. So if you go to TikTok, you can find us there too. And if you can't find any of these, you just click on all my links that are here on Alien Strand Podcast. You'll find all the links that we have to all our social media pages. Instead of trying to look for it all over the place, just click on all my links. You'll see the link there after this podcast at the very bottom on description. Click on that. You'll see all of our TikToks, everything that's on there, all over the place, Facebook, everything, Rumble, we're everywhere, YouTube, we're all over the place. So we're going to stick to audio just for a little bit, right? And I won't be getting too much of the video podcast. I'm not really set up for that just yet. So I was able to get the audio back online. Yes. Thank God for that. So we're going to keep on moving forward with the audio just for a bit. I'll probably have, maybe 3 or 4 segments of audio. So please be checking back on Alien Strand. Click a heart or click a like on any of these Spotify's, anything like that. So when you, even iHeartRadio. So when a new one comes out, you'll see it pop up right away on your feed, even on YouTube. So there's a podcast page there on YouTube for people that are podcasting. You can find us there as well. And click that little bell, and when Alien Strand comes out with a new one, you'll see it pop out. Hey, catch the new one, because there's always good stuff coming out. Today, we're going to dive a little bit deep, right? We're going to take you back. We're going to go backwards, man. We're going to go back in time. So, and we're going to talk about things that possibly, and these are all just hypothesis of a possibility of, were there extraterrestrials on Earth before us? And we've always had that thought in our minds. Is it the possibility that they have been? We've been finding a lot of things as we dig. Have you noticed that when we dig deeper and deeper into the ground, I'm talking more than 10, 12 feet, 20 feet, that they're starting to find more extraterrestrial things buried deeper into the ground. Right? Things that resemble extraterrestrials. They resemble spacecraft. They resemble beings that were walking on this planet long before we were here, right? Was the Anunnaki right? Was the Sumerians right about the Anunnaki? Is the Anunnaki a real thing, or is it just something based out of their religion? I don't know. What do you think? And the possibilities of those thought processes are endless, really, in reality. So this is why you dive deep into the rabbit hole, and that's what we're going to do today. We're going to dive a little deep into the rabbit hole about that, because, and it's not about religion, it's not about this and that. It's about, what are your thoughts that the possibilities that maybe we were evolved in some sort of way, or manipulated in some sort of way, our DNA from an extraterrestrial life form, right? Or who's to say that, that it's we don't come from a different planet and we were put here, right? Just like we talk about the hypothesis of Bigfoot, that a lot of people, when they see Bigfoot, that they notice that they'll always see a UFO or some sort of craft nearby a Bigfoot sighting. Now, to me, that's more like a 50-50, but there's people out there that have really been out there really studying Bigfoot and the analogy of Bigfoot and the biology of Bigfoot as well too, right? Because they already got hair samples. Some people have got parts of fingers and everything like that, where they find just a toe, right? Or a fingernail or something, right? And do they have the same structures and DNAs as us humans? I don't know. Every time they try digging deep into that, you never hear anything. It's crickets, man, crickets. That's what I hear. I don't know. I just hear crickets all the time. And that's what kind of freaks me out about that situation there. Excuse me as I take a drink of my coffee. So, as I do my podcast, I like drinking my coffee. It keeps me energized. Not just energized, but it keeps me going and just to think more outside the box. And coffee just doesn't do that to everybody, but it does it to me, right? So anyway, let's talk about let's dive deep into the advanced civilizations, right, of people that were here on Earth, possibly before us or even created us, right? And we've been seeing ancient texts out there, archaeological finds out there, and scientific. There's like anomalies that sometimes that they see that brings us back to, were we created by them? Man, and it kind of gets you thinking all the time, right? Were we, right? And when you take it back, I've said this before, that when the DNA was first created, right? The strand of the DNA, that we the first strand of the DNA was more than 9 billion years ago, right? This is what they've studied on the strand of our DNA. But yet Earth was made 3. So where did it come from? And where did we come from? Right? And this is our DNA. So was there some kind of intelligence out there that were manipulating biology of some sort, right? Before us, right? And then if they were, after humans were made, did they start representing mythologies, right? And they start referencing the extraterrestrials like as sky gods, right? As we see them in the Anunnaki or in Sumerian figures as these large human beings, right? That came from the stars, right? And they had all these analogies and stories of the Anunnaki, their texts that they came from the heavens, right? That they descended from up there, and it's a theory, really, in reality, that when they started putting all that together, that's maybe that this is possibly, was it true or was it not true? Or were they just theories? And then we have the Fermi paradox, right? Which means, why haven't we found aliens yet, right? Or did we miss their past presence, right? In other words, did we miss that window of opportunity of seeing them before us, right? In other words, this is where all the archaeology that's coming from, that they're starting to find things below the ground, deeper and deeper as we go, right? So now they're starting to find more alien heads, more figures, actual extraterrestrials in Peru, right? That they have out there now that Jaime Maussan has them now. And of course, now he's in charge of the Boosphere. And now the technologies that they're starting to study about this, Dr. Greer asked, I want to know if the material or the metals that comes off of this, once they start reading the carbon factor on it, on how far back it goes, were these creatures or intelligence beings that are out there, were they the masters and the creators of us? And this is what Dr. Greer was trying to explain on that conference, right? That he wants to know that, like we all do. And that's what this podcast is about here today, is to kind of dive deep into, think about the possibilities that, that maybe, humans were some kind of a genetic manipulation of some sort, right? By an advanced race, right? What was the advanced race? Were they the little Greys? Were they the Anunnaki? Were there these Palladians that we hear about that supposedly created the Greys, or the Greys work for them, right? Some sort. And these Greys are some sort of like a clone of some sort, right? That they use them as workers. So when we hear those stories of the Palladians and them having Greys with them, even the Travis Walton story, when you read the book, it's not in the movie, Fire in the Sky, but that their extraterrestrials were in there. There were actual Greys in there as well as the human-looking ones after he got out of that ship. Because it goes real deep on that story. It goes further than what you saw in the film. You really have to read the book in order for you to understand that he was inside of a larger ship and then went into a smaller one where he met the human-looking ones that were in there, but you didn't see that in the film. So then we had the sudden appearance of Homo sapiens, right? Probably maybe about 300,000 years ago, right? And of course, we had just standalone capabilities, walking, kind of communicating with grunts, possibly, like there's an actual, I forgot what it's called, but there's a documentary on Netflix, and it talks about how these Homo sapiens back then, that they were actually burying their dead, and they were leaving like flowers on them or a stone or something to remember them by, right? So they were kind of already had the thought process of the afterlife, right? Where do you get these ideas from? How did they even know to do that? Even if you really think about it, even pets today or animals that you see all over Facebook or any of these social media platforms, you'll see a pet trying to bury another one, right? It's an instinct to do this, right? So they're thinking, well, was it something religious? Was it ceremonial that they did with the Homo sapiens back 300,000 years ago or were they taught this some sort, right? But the only thing about something that far back is the link that there is lack of like traditional fossils, right? In other words, like tools and things. They found some, but it's very little, far from none. But because if you think about it, they were probably using stones of some sort, a stick as a handle. You know, they weren't using any kind of metals of whatsoever that would last long enough period of time through the centuries to be found today, right? So the only thing you're going to see possibly is something next to a grave, or if they find a skull of some sort, they'll probably find remnants of some kind of social living, how where they were living, and possibly an arrow or a bow or a stick or something they were using as a tool, maybe even a figure of some sort of a religious symbol of some sort, maybe, right? So these are the things that are still missing in that, right? And of course, there's people always think, well, we came from apes. Well, we did. Why there's still apes? All right. I don't know. So you can't really go with that hypothesis as well, because there's still the chromosomes in that there's two of them, right? And the human chromosomes are not shared with primates. Okay. So you got to remember that. So could we be engineered? We're just totally different from a primate, which is an ape, right? It's just the chromosomes are not there to bring that as far back to think that we came from apes, right? So, and then we think back, all right, so let's go forward a little bit forward, right? And find out, okay, so what are the supporting myths or anything like that will make us think of that there was other beings here other than us, which would be the Book of Enoch, right? Which I talked about before in a past podcast, because they were called the Watchers, right? Descending to Earth, and they were mixing with humans, right? And then the Sumerian cylinder seals were depicting DNA like double helix figures in spacesuits, right? So you even see it in the pictures that almost looks like DNA. Sumerians already had this. How did they even know what a DNA structure looked like? I'm sure back then their mental status was right where it needs to be, right? But the technology was not there. There were still, they had already had metals, right? Swords, and they were making clothing and, shiny. They found gold. Of course, gold was their number one issue that they were mining all the time, right? And then they made the Ujiji, right? Which were the workers of the Sumerians, right? Or the Anunnaki, actually. And when they were mining for gold for them, so they can get back home. So there's like scientific analogies out there, or thoughts, or in reality, depicting of, did we come, or were we seated here? And it's called panspermia, right? Which means life on Earth was seeded deliberately. Panspermia. Life on Earth was seeded deliberately. You got to think about that. And then, of course, it dives into a different direction. There's a Harvard geneticist, Dr. Gary Nolan, right? He speculated that about anomalous materials in the UFO crash sites, possibly tech or biology unknown to Earth. In other words, these materials cannot be duplicated, or do they exist on Earth, right? So then we start thinking, okay, well, were we made or brought here maybe from another planet, possibly? And we start thinking that if we were, after humans and the Homo sapiens, and then we started evolving into who we are as walking and upright and talking and communicating and making sentences and actually writing scripts, right? And start to understand language and actually communicate with each other and spell, right? To learn to spell in a certain language, like in the Sumerians, and they started making texts, right? So they could read, and they knew how to read that all that material, right? So this is how humans started evolving and growing mentally. And then we have ancient structures that defy our explanation of where did it come from? Who were these people? Why? Göbekli Tepe, right? 11,600 years old. They were built before agriculture was even invented, right? And believe it or not, those actually have astronomical alignments, right? Almost like what you would see at Stonehenge. When they started seeing the new summer solstice, right? And people were out there taking pictures, right? So everything kind of lines up, like the Giza. The pyramids of Giza, right? Everything lines up with Orion. Pumapunku, right? In Bolivia. They had precision cut stones weighing hundreds of tons, right? And what technology did they have to shape them or even try to transport those things? That's what gets us, us thinking of how, what, or why, or was there something out there that we don't know about? There's even one in Lebanon. I think it's called Baalbek or something like that. It says it's a stone of a pregnant woman weighing over 1,000 tons. The Nazca lines in Peru. These have those dynamic geoglyphs on there, right? And they're viewed from the sky, almost like they have like a landing pad, right? We've seen that on top of that mountain. Possibly looks like a landing pad, like something we have in our airports today, right? And then we have the Yonaguni monument there in Japan. It has submerged ruins, right? That were under the water, which are pre-ice age civilizations, right? In other words, these things were there a long time ago. And I don't know if you've seen that, but when you see videos or pictures of that, it is massive. This civilization that's underwater. It looks like a large city. I mean, were these the theories that we're thinking about? Were they possible? Were they remnants of a pre-human or maybe some kind of hybrid civilization that was here before us, right? And they showed them, hey, this is how you do these things. I cannot give you the tools because you might just kill yourselves. Or it's too dangerous. It's like giving a baby a loaded shotgun, right? You know, it's some things are just too powerful for humans to have, really, in reality. And these are just my thoughts on that. You know, this is just my thinking. And this is, I mean, what would you do if you were on an extraterrestrial planet? You had more than what they had. You had a weapon of some sort, or you had some sort of tool that could possibly move mountains or move buildings or move stones or whatever, and you couldn't just leave it to them, right? Because you don't know what they're going to do with it. You know what the possibilities could come from that, right? But back then, the intelligence in science wasn't as much as it is today. Today, we're more technological, right? Today. Let's go ahead and take a quick break. We'll be back in just a minute.
Alien Strand Podcast.
If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths and sometimes heights to ensure the power is always flowing, which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Welcome back to the show. So I hope you guys are enjoying today's podcast. If you are, please hit a like, subscribe, give me a thumbs up on whatever platform you're listening to. It goes a long way. Go to our Patreon platform, be a join in for free, or be a $5 member. You get some extras on there. All right. So go to our Patreon, Alien Strand Podcast, catch us there as well. All right. So let's talk about what we were talking about: alien civilizations and the possibilities of hybridism, or did we come from them, or were we created in some sort, right? So let's go back to our DNA, just, you know, and just think about our bloodlines and mysteries that we have, that we've talked about on prior podcasts, when I've talked about Rh negative blood, you know, and which Rh negative, remember, it's only found in 15% of the population of the origin, but the origins of that is unknown though, right? We still don't know where that Rh negative comes from, but only 15% of the population on Earth, mind you, has it. And on the Rh negative, we've talked about how more people that are Rh negative have the more higher probability of being abducted, and you know. And then they focus on more reproductive experiments on them. In other words, taking their eggs, taking their sperm, taking things like that that they need the extraterrestrials to coexist or exist. Period. Right? Because they have no genitals of some sort. That's we've heard that over and over and over on the Greys, right? That they need that to clone a human. Thus, we came to the test tube babies in the 90s, right? Or in the 80s, actually. Late 80s, we started coming around with the test tube babies because women were having a hard time trying to get pregnant. And how did they figure that out? Right? But the extraterrestrials have been doing this to people long before we had that figured out. Did the idea come from extraterrestrials? Just like fiber optics. They said when the 1947 crash of Roswell that inside that craft, the wires or the tubing inside of these crafts looked exactly like fiber optics. And they were being controlled by a giant, almost looks like a CPU of some sort in the center of that craft. So did we get fiber optics from the crash of Roswell in 1947? I believe we did. And then aliens, of course, after the abductions, they start monitoring their experiments. So they keep coming back for them over and over and over. I'm talking Rh negative people. And are their bloodlines more special than your O positive, O negative, or anything like that, to where they keep on coming back for Rh negative people because apparently their blood is a better grade, I'm going to say it that way, or something that works than ours. But it's strange because the opposite of that is that humans to human, when an Rh negative woman and a, let's just say, O positive male, when they try to have a children or make a baby, she can't. The baby cannot survive. The only way the baby can survive if she gets shots, right? So that way she's able to hold the baby in her womb without losing it. So now if a Rh negative man and an Rh negative woman have a child, no issues whatsoever, right? So it gets you more thinking, a little bit more advanced there, that are these grays Rh negative? Because it seems to be that they're abducting more Rh negative people in that situation, to where the infant or whatever they're creating, the clone, is surviving, has a probable 100% survival rate than what it will in the opposite blood type, as humans do, right? And we've all heard the mythologies and everything talk about the people from the stars, right? Of course, you know, the Mayas, the Aztecs, you know, they say that there was some sort of being descending from the stars. The Hopi prophecy, they said the stories of some sort of ant people, right? Or human undergrounds, and they're down there, but they look sort of ants. Then in India, right, they had these stories of that's called the Vedic texts, right, to where they talked about these flying machines. They had some sort of cosmic wars. So what this really suggests, right, when we start thinking about all of this, is that we start thinking, is ancient mythology encoded in the myth and the religion of humans, right? Because really, in reality, if you think about it, this is a shared global effect that we have of contact shared globally, right? Throughout different peoples, countries. We're all human species, of course, but they all have had some sort of extraterrestrial contact visualization or mythology of contact. And then we start wondering, well, why does it matter today of, what the past is? We're here already. Yeah, it does. Well, we all think the same way. But now we're starting to have more modern sightings, more UAP disclosures. And now the U.S. military has engaged in releasing information of UFO encounters, especially through the Navy, right? So now there's a shift in the government tone, right? They're like, okay, well, we didn't want to say it before, but yeah, there's aliens out there. We just don't know what they are. And do you think that our military is prepping us of some sort, or our government, let's put it to you that way? Are they prepping us for some sort of disclosure of some sort? Me, if they haven't done it already, they're not going to do it. They're just going to kind of feed you breadcrumbs and let you figure it out yourself. And this is what a lot of these podcasts are for. Right? And if this is some sort of disclosure that they know something about humans and our past life or where we seated here or whatever, what does it mean for future evolution of the human existence or the human species, right? What does it mean? And then the theory of are we alone will no longer be there anymore, because the thing goes back so far back, it's going to prove that we have not been alone this whole time. Because it starts bringing you back to something that was much older than we expect. I mean, we talked about hybrid humans, ancient technology tonight, global myths, and our history, right? And then we ask ourselves some questions, right? What if we are descendants of these visitors? And how would you live differently if you knew the origins were cosmic? Right? That's the key question there. What are your thoughts on these theories? We see it on the History Channel, on Ancient Aliens, and everything that I've talked about tonight, right? I'm kind of bringing it a little deeper, a little further into your thought process of what if? And that's what this is about. It's the what if factor. And will they find all these lost civilizations that we've all been talking about all these years that have been mentioned before? Atlantis, Lemuria, and other lost civilizations. Now they're starting to see more things on the ground in the Amazon forests. They're starting to map out a lot more civilizations that were there way before we were on these continents, or started joining these continents, because there were people there, thousands of people. But what happened to them? We always ask that question, right? What happened to everything in the past, and why was it buried so far and so deep into the earth, like Göbekli Tepe? That was literally buried on purpose. And we've already seen the images. They're kind of dirty, but I believe that when Terry and I talked about this a long time ago, that we believe that this was buried because it was not meant to be seen by everyone else, that it's a possibility that it has a dark side to it, put it to you that way, of the humanistic processes and thoughts of the people back then and what they were doing, right? And it was buried because you don't hear anything about it in any books, anything like that, in those origins or in that area of their books that go, I'm not going to say before. I'm not going to say before Göbekli Tepe because it's 11,600 years old, right? But was it buried back then? And it just kind of gets us wondering, why, right? Well, my thought, just on everything in general, not just Göbekli Tepe, but just everything in general. The Anunnaki, Mars, everything that happened, in our history books, even the Bible, Adam and Eve, how the stories and how everything kind of coincides together as having a beginning and having an end. Because in both of those books, there is a beginning and there is an end. We haven't seen the end yet. Of course, we're still here, but are we closer to that general area that we were before? I don't know. It's getting a little rough out there. But today's podcast, we were just talking about the possibilities if we were seeded by some sort of advanced civilization prior to us all. And we've heard many stories of possible extraterrestrials and their belief systems as well as ours, and it coincides and coexists together. So if you want to go deeper past that part, or even think about, what are they talking about? It doesn't matter at that point. Their thought processes, their belief systems are identical to ours. They do have a belief system as well. How we live, how we die, how they live, how they die, that there's a creator of all. But it all started somewhere. And that's the answer to the $200 question, right? Will we ever get that answer? Probably not. But if we ever do, it'd be nice to at least know before we eat the dirt, right? At least know the general concept of our DNA and where we came from and everything that we're living under or living below our feet, because Earth is below our feet. As we live it, we breathe the air. We enjoy people's company. We love one another. We enjoy family, enjoy life. We experience things that you don't get to experience every day, right? Sometimes you got to look past all the bad and the evil and have a good day. Take the family out to a movie. Go out camping. Go look at the stars. Do a C5. Pray, maybe. Enjoy things of what they are. The beauties of life are endless, and they're out there. to go and experience, right? So if you do have a chance to go see mountains, lakes, rivers, go fishing, and experience life, or even go and see these ancient civilizations as far as Egypt, Göbekli Tepe, Antarctica, Alaska, Arizona, Oregon, the Cascadia Guides up there. If you do have a chance, or even just to go to see a disclosure conference and learn of astrology, learn everything there is to know about extraterrestrials. Everybody's going to have a different hypothesis of different things, right? But it's up to you to decide whether and which direction you want to believe or go into. But do your own homework on that as well. But what we're telling you here at Alien Strand Podcast is to enjoy life of what it is. Enjoy it to the fullest. Enjoy peace and happiness. Share this with the world. Share your happiness with the world. And the place will be, we will be in such a better place if everybody could just be in that same mindset, right? Hope you guys enjoyed today's podcast as much as I did. Thank you guys for listening to me ramble just a little bit. But it was my absolute pleasure. Yes, it was. And yeah, I've been gone for a while. Yeah, I have. It's my fault. But you know what? I'm going to be throwing out some more of these audio podcasts for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed today's podcast. If you really did, like this podcast and share it with your friends. Listen to it again. Give me a like. Give me a subscribe. Go to all my links on the description of this podcast. Go look for all our social media pages. Go follow us on Patreon. This podcast will be on Patreon as well. Download the Patreon app. It's free. Follow us. It's free. If you want to join up with us for the $5 a month, hey, go for it, man. There's a lot of goodies there for you to download as well. I'm going to have some more podcasts coming out after this one. Our next podcast, we're going to be talking about the Bergosphere. Yeah, I'm going to dive deep into that one, all right? And, you know, we'll just keep going as we're going. Yeah. All right, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed today's podcast as much as I did. Listen to us on 26 to 28 platforms of audio. Yes, we are. You can go visit us on YouTube as well. Go follow us there. We're having a lot of our video podcasts that were live. Click the live section there, and you can go back and visit all our live podcasts with guests. I do have a new guest coming on here soon. His name is Santiago, a really good friend of mine, and he had an amazing experience a while back in Victoria, Texas, mind you, right? And it's a possible abduction, and he told me about this the other night, and I told him to get on the podcast with me, brother, and let's go ahead and talk about it. So if you guys want to be on the podcast as well, hit me up on Instant Messenger there on Facebook, send me some messages, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Yes, I will. And if you guys want to get on the show, we'll talk about it, right? And if you don't want to get on the show, that's okay. If you just want to talk about it, I'll be glad to talk about your experiences, things that happen, and help you break it down for you. All right, that's what we're here for. All right, visit Alien Strand Disclosure Project, because there's no I in team. We all work together as one. Visit our sponsor, SnackBench85. Go visit those TikTok stores. Go visit everything you can. You know, it helps everybody out there. And go a lot further in disclosure. Yes. And there'll be more disclosure coming up. All right. Until then, we'll catch you on the next one. You guys have yourselves a good day. Have yourselves a good evening, and have yourselves a good night.
Alien Strand Podcast.
You want to learn about CE5 and extraterrestrial contact? Download my new book, now on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple, and 14 other platforms. Book authored by Donald Ledesma. CE5, Frequencies of Contact.